I suppose Da Vinci Last Supper in some ways has created its own industry. It's regarded with such profundity, such delight, I suppose positing it as a religious pilgrimage situation to encourage, I suppose, that general thing that supposedly Da Vinci himself was after. You'll also notice that we have, in some ways, elucidated and emphasized the narrative. You can see the flash on the knife that St. Peter was later to use to cut off the ear of the centurion. You will notice the relationship, the touching hands between Christ and Judas, who are sitting at the front of the table. You will notice how Leonardo's plan, rather like Dante, which we discussed a couple of days ago, is all based on threes and multiples of threes. So we've elucidated the groups around the table and the individual organization of the threes within that phenomenon. So you see, we've done a bit of research in order to feed back in some of the tropes and some of the strategies and some of the agendas that Da Vinci himself put into that painting. There's a big difference, I suppose, between secular Amsterdam and Roman Catholic religious, Roman Catholic Milan. Maybe they say that the northern Italy is not quite as, should we say, religious as Middle Italy or southern Italy. So we did have enormous amounts of problems from the church about being allowed in to make a presentation, because what a lot of people say, and I can perfectly understand it, won't all these lights somehow deteriorate the painting? Well, we can say absolutely categorically not. Our experiences back in the Rice Museum, as you probably know, there's a system called Lux, which is different from every different sort of artwork. So there's a different amount of light you're allowed to put on drawings, on oil paintings, and on frescoes, and on all paintings on wood. It's all carefully calculated. But if we say the maximum lux, generally speaking, on a painting like the Night Watch is 100, the actual museum authorities, when we got there, were actually projecting their own house lights on it to the degree of 65 lux. And when we came along and projected our lights, we never exceeded 45. So if there's anybody having a problem here, I think we have to lay it far more with the museum authorities than us. We had to go through a whole series of artistic committees in various places in Rome. There was a whole series of antagonisms. People shouldn't do this sort of thing. It's against the principles of contemplative painting. Painting is not cinema. What are you doing? Are you making a cartoon of it? Are you vulgarizing it? Are you trying to play some funny 21st century animation game with Da Vinci? I think our answer all the time to all this is maybe we should think maybe what Da Vinci himself would have thought about these things. And we know he was a master investigator, and he was right up there at the front, using all the latest technological gadgets that ever conceivably organized. People used to bring these navigational instruments, these astronomical globes, deliberate to him, because they knew and understood his percipience about such things. So I'm sure, again, just like Rembrandt, he'd be using HD 4K red camera. I'm sure he'd be delighted with our experiments. This whole political diplomatic concern went all the way up to the very top. Berlusconi, apparently somewhere, had to sign something in the end before we were allowed to do it. And we were, and I'm glad, because that justified, because this is the whole point. Although it might be exciting to project on a clone, what was important for me was to have that one-to-one relationship with the original. So we were allowed one night, and I think we did, 8 projections. Though nobody less than the mayor of Siena ever managed to get in, because it became, of course, célèbre and was full of people who regarded themselves as art enthusiasts and art lovers. But there is a plan to try and create a situation where one day of every week for the next 5 years, you'll be able to see this presentation. I urge you to go and see it. The doors are opening. We are now going to tackle, you all know the famous Velázquez painting Las Meninas, the Maids, in the Prado. We're struggling now to find a way to do an installation like this on Picasso's Guernica, but that is extremely dangerous because it's essentially a Basque painting and really belongs in the Guggenheim in Bilbao. So the Guggenheim are behind us, trying very hard to be able to persuade the Spanish authorities, at least for 6 months, to take this painting, which really does belong to this part of the country. Guernica is about, I think, 30 kilometers just south of Bilbao. But if that doesn't work, we will certainly make the most excellent clone, which will be in the Guggenheim, and we will do a double activity. We will both project on the original in the Prado in Madrid and also in Bilbao. I've already mentioned the plans which are going to start happening probably at the beginning of October to associate the Veronese Marriage of Cana in the Louvre, the original, along with the clone in Venice. And it's going to be tied to a combination in Venice next year of the Venice Film Festival and the Venice Biennale. So we will open with the Venice Biennale and will close at the ending of the Venice Film Festival, because it's a nice way to indicate the associations of a long visual tradition which continues from painting and moves into cinema. We're going to tackle Monet's water lilies in the Orangerie in the Tuileries in Paris. We have a Seurat in Chicago. We have a Jackson Pollock in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and a creme de la creme for me. And we're beginning actually to pursue this. I understand the Pope has a couple of secretaries who love my cinema. We are going to go to the Vatican and tackle Michelangelo's Last Judgment. So whether you are an atheist or a believer, that really is the most amazing painting, which really does represent even the most secular notions of the end of the world. So, take out your diaries, make a few notes, and I expect to see you there. Thank you. What I'd like to do, just to finish off, is show you that one more time. I do have embarrassment about this, because again, it's a facsimile of a facsimile of a facsimile, and that strange spreading focus, sort of mucus fungi, is not me, it's not this, it's this goddamn projector here. Let's try it again.